This is the Veteran Trash Talk Hour, hosted by Nick, Dave, Joe, and Buddy. Today's special guest is Chris, a retired colonel who... Wait, what? You can make colonel as a nurse?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Trash Talk Hour. Welcome to episode 59. Shout out to our sponsor, Zach Farkas with the Veterans Mortgage Source. 10th Mountain Whiskey. Go check them out at 10thmountainwhiskey.com. Type in VTT and get yourself a discount. Our newest sponsor, Barrage Coffee. You can check them out at barragecoffee.com. Special guest today is retired Colonel Chris Linder. And today I'm joined by Nick, Buddy, and Joe. Over to you, Joe.
It's actually over to Buddy, so I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah, it's actually over to me. In fact, that's why.
Read the script, Dave.
This is the first time I didn't read the script. It's over to Joe. Let's just fucking do it. I'm starting the dumpster fire early.
I spent 3 fucking minutes on that script, okay? 3 minutes.
I'm starting the dumpster fire early.
Hey, Buddy, I'm prepared to hear you speak.
Wow. Hey, so who's doing it, Dave, or is it me?
Buddy, we're going to stick with you. We're going to stick with you, buddy.
We're gonna go with the script. All right, I like that. I like that idea because we planned it. Let's stick with the plan as long as possible.
Don't fight the plan, fight the enemy, buddy.
So my honesty cap is pretty simple. I had a buddy that got into a little trouble in the last week or so, and it kind of, I don't know, it kind of struck home is that this show is about suicide prevention, mental health, veterans and all of that, but I don't understand, and I guess maybe it's more a question than an honesty cap, is like, why did we wait until the wheels are burnt off of the car before we maintain it? Why do we wait to get a DUI before we go, you know what, I might have a drinking problem because I drink a fifth of fucking liquor every day. Like, I might have an anger issue because but we don't deal with it until we're like punching holes in walls or our wives. Like, why is it we don't maintain our sobriety, maintain our mental health until it's gotten to the point that we have to deal with it, that we're forced to deal with it? And why don't we point it out to each other more often than like, hey man, like, I have a drink on Saturdays because I'm, when I do the show and because 10th Mountain Liquor is awesome.
Type in VTT, get a discount.
And if you go to VTT, you get a discount. So why wouldn't I have a drink on Saturdays? But there's a difference between having a drink and drinking to get drunk and drinking every single day. And knowing the difference is important. And I think, but that, mental health, all of the things, all deal with like maintaining ourselves in a well-rounded person. And we're not very good at doing it until we're forced to look at it because we've crashed our car into a wall, and then we're like, shit, I really should have probably worked on the steering of this thing when it was starting to wobble 800,000 miles ago. Anyway, that's my honesty cap, boys. Happy Saturday. On to you, Joe.
Happy Saturday, buddy.
Happy Saturday, buddy.
It is.
Not bad. Not a bad.
Oh, that was good.
It's okay.
Buddy.
Let me
caveat off of what Buddy said.
Go ahead, Joe.
And it would behoove those listening. I didn't mean to catch both at one time, but if you want to talk about burning time and professionally really fucking up and setting yourself back, come talk to me, and I'll be transparent about what I did to set myself back and let you know there's no fucking judgment here. All right.
Oh, I judged you.
I've seen the bottom looking up, and I had every excuse to call it quits then. But I was honestly, it was either turn it around or lose everything. So I chose that. But seriously, the choices I made put myself in such a bad situation before I decided to maintain it. So Buddy's right. Don't waste fucking time. That actually leads right into what I stole this week. I read this somewhere, and as far as I know, it doesn't belong
in a book.
Yeah, in a book. Okay. gonna understand 9 words in that book now.
I only read memes.
So everybody's heard of the 12 steps. It's funny that Buddy was talking about people drinking. All right, I'm gonna call these the veteran 12 steps. And if you guys have heard them before, just pretend like you haven't, and compliment me on it. No, but seriously, it's a cursing alert. So this is not a kid-friendly 12 steps, but it's a good one. All right, number 1, do the fucking work. Don't be lazy. All right, that's obvious. 2, stop fucking waiting. It's time now. 3, rely on yourself. The universe doesn't give a fuck. 4, be fucking practical. Success is not a theory. 5, be productive early. Don't fuck around all day. 6, don't be a fucking baby. Life's hard. Get on with it. 7, don't hang out with fuckwits. That's an obvious one. 8, don't waste energy on shit you can't control. 10, stop bullshitting. It's embarrassing. 11, stop putting toxic shit in your body. It's just stupid. And 12, stop doing the same fucking thing and hope shit changes. So I'm going to call it the veteran 12 steps. I don't know who that belongs to, but I think it's brilliant. It kind of goes off what Buddy just said. So that's all I got, Nick. That was I hijacked that and thought that was good conversation fodder.
I think you're right, Joe. I think it's awesome that
whoever wrote that was
put,
spot on.
Yeah, and it's in terms that we can understand. Like, stop hanging out with fucking assholes.
Yeah, it's like when we had Wynn Anderson on, the author, with Wombat, and it's like when I read the book, you realize, I think we have the Mad Colonel's coming in early, so we'll get him on here. So you never know when he comes on. He gets fucking angry and just shows up. Now there's some, what is that, Op4? Really cool, classy picture with your fucking link adapter on, Colonel Rob.
JRTC picture.
Yeah, look how badass I am. The helicopter's still taped down and the rotors are still tied down.
Damn straight.
Chris, this is all the talk until he shows up. All right, mute your mics and get down, boys.
Oh man. So welcome onto the show, Colonel Rob, the Mad Colonel. Say hi to Colonel Linder. You got 2 colonels on here. We got like fucking 70 worth of experience here. Let's go.
12, right?
Yeah. Hey, don't correct my math. I'm the host. Okay.
What kind of shit show is this?
I used infantry math. So how many? 70.
What's infantry math? You asked.
Yeah.
What's 1 + 1? 11 Bravo.
11 Bravo, motherfucker. Yeah. Even put in algebra and put in like a B in there, I think, or is that physics? I don't know. So. Hey, welcome to the show, Colonel Rob. It's been a minute. What's got you triggered lately?
All right, so here's what's got me hot right now. So first of all, I absolutely hate the month of August. Those of you guys that have been down range at that time of year have probably been blasted, just like I have. I fucking hate it, to be completely honest. And it's one of those times of year that absolutely sucks. But as veterans, we all have to keep in mind that everybody has those kind of moments that triggers them throughout the course of the year. It's not the same for everybody. Some people it's in the spring, some people it's in the fall, but it's definitely one of those things that you got to watch out for your battle buddies and ranger buddies to the left and right of you, because there's going to be that moment where you're going to see it in their eyes and you're not going to know why they're freaking pissed off. And it's usually associated to some event that happened to them downrange. I have 3 things that I want to leave you guys with. The first one is, I hate the month of August. Second thing is, don't use your leadership for politics, right? And we see that a lot these days. One of the reasons why I punched out was probably because I shot my mouth off too much, being the angry colonel. And there was probably some angry colonels and generals that did not like that. So I didn't achieve the epitome, as some would say, of a military career. I hit the pinnacle of a mediocre career at 23. But what I would tell you is there's a lot of leadership right now that is leveraging their position to play politics. And it doesn't matter what side of the line you're on, you're endangering your soldiers' lives and their livelihoods when you think about your political future rather than thinking about how the outcome is going to impact your organization. And then the other part of it is don't use politics for leadership. And that's the third point. And the third point is, if you guys have been watching the news and those of you guys that have been deployed understand that Extortion 17 was yesterday, kind of honoring that incident. But I think loosely based into some political addicts of the 2000 election time, the 2012 election, right? We put this information out there that SEAL Team 6 smoked UBL. And then the follow-up was, the Taliban put a freaking bounty on their heads because they knew that SEAL Team 6 was involved in everything that went down with UBL, and then Extortion 17 happened. Whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, it was one of the most catastrophic events in SOCOM history, but it was directly linked to a leader opening up the books and declassifying an operation that should still be classified to this day, right? For a secret, it's 10 years. For top secret, it's 25 years or longer. And I can guarantee you the methods, techniques, and procedures that were utilized to find Osama bin Laden, although they showed up in Zero Dark 30, the true story is still very deeply classified. And because some leaders wanted to make some political bones, they released that information. So again, I hate the month of August. Do not use politics for leadership, and don't leave your leadership for politics. And I got to go, Jets and Rangers.
Damn. Rob always bringing
all the
heat.
way. Way to go, Rob. Thank you.
Comes in with the thunder.
Bravo. So, but yeah, those of you who
I don't even know how to unpack all of that.
Yeah, well, I'll do it.
Where do we start? Start?
Yeah. It's I always explain this to the the enlisted folk, us swine, because I decided to go to college, so I'm like way ahead of like Buddy as far as like reading. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, the Joe is always complaining, and I'm like, look, if you want to make it to the rank of general, right, you can get there on merit, on your education, on your skills. It's throughout history of any army, you got to know some people, right? You got to have connections. I mean, I always used to bring it up with like General Patton, where he had to marry into money so that eventually, he started getting some stature. Because back in that day, they'd demote you, but keep you in the army unless you were somebody, right? So eventually he got to the stature with money, and he was able to, stay promoted higher. But, there's the boss for these generals is the president, and when you say no to the president, your resignation usually comes in right after it. And it's like, sorry, and that's what people do. Or, the president doesn't want to fire you because he doesn't want to look bad politically. So then he has a team somewhere, find some email you sent to some fucking woman, or, some PowerPoint presentation that you gave in Afghanistan that nobody gives a fuck about. Right. And it's like, all of a sudden, oh my God, fire him. It's like, oh, so we're going to fire one of the greatest minds of our ground force teams and overall, strategic level operations because of a fucking tweet, or because of an email, and again, oh, well, go back, MacArthur, they let him get up on Congress and scream, and then poof, he was gone. All right. It's like, they throw you away. All right. Just like any other piece of military equipment, when you're fucking done, you get thrown away. If you have any type of, goals other than that, like that's what Colonel Rob is saying, is you see a lot of guys, they try to protect themselves as much as possible because they have goals at the end state with politics. All right. And that's where you become very dangerous as a leader, because now what are you doing? All right. Are you doing things, all the education that the government's paid for you so that, you can make these great decisions? And then, what are you setting yourself up for? So you got to be careful with those guys. There's snakes everywhere, and it just happens. But at least for the most part, go ahead, buddy.
I think it's interesting, Nick, that we're talking about it as if it's an officer problem, when more and more it's an NCO problem also.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
We're supposed to be the advisor to the officer and the kind of the people subject matter expert and the training subject matter expert, but we spend more and more time with our head up their ass at a meeting. So that, like, when's the last time an officer made a decision at a meeting? Never. It's never happened. George Washington never made a goddamn decision at a meeting. So why the hell do we have to be at the meeting? Let's talk about it at the end of the day, when I'm spending all my time with the boys, making sure that they're trained to do what we need to do, fight and win our nation's wars. And you're going to meetings to figure out what war we need to fight. And then we get together at the end of the day, we talk about leader business, and we do it, that way. But we spend all of our time as NCOs trying to be politicians now. That's why, I mean, to be honest, now that I'm on the twilight zone getting out part, Sergeant Major is probably the most worthless rank in the Army, because all they do is, they don't do anything anymore. Used to, like, I remember Sergeant Majors walking around, and hey, the sergeant major is going to be around, so make sure your privates know what they're doing. Make sure your team leaders know what they're doing, because the sergeant major is going to talk to them. He's going to find out how their family life is going. He's going to find out if they're trained accordingly. Now they're busy, I got to go to a meeting with the colonel, got to go to a meeting with this guy, got to go to a meeting with this guy. Why? So that you know what they're talking about. How about you guys just talk and you'll figure out what they're talking about? You don't have to be there.
Yeah,
you need to be out with the boys.
Yeah, they bring it down like even like the first sergeant level, and I would roll my eyes to get kicked out of meetings, on purpose. I would sit there and they'd be like, "Oh, what's the matter, Cottrell?" And I'd be like, "Are you going to ask any questions about how we're training these boys? Or are you going to keep going over like, T plus fucking 12? Like, do you need to know how to train this? Because I know how to train what you're talking about. Do you need me to explain how to do these drills? No, I'm going to go bye. Like, I'm going to go fucking train my guys.
But now we're so locked into our emails, our computers, and going to meetings that, when do we get out and go look at people at the range and make sure that, Private Snuffy actually knows how to shoot his gun? Because that's what I need to be able to advise the colonel on, right? Whether the company is prepared to go to war, whether every platoon is ready to go to war, and if not, what ranges how do we need to tailor our training to prepare our guys to go to whatever conflict the colonel and the head shed think that we're going to go fight, right?
Yeah,
but we don't want to upset anybody, because we want to make our next birth or I'll change everything when I could be when I could be a battalion sergeant major, or when I could be a brigade commander or a brigade sergeant major. We'll change things now, and then it'll fix it,
Is that literally not happening, though, like on the line? Like we were used to with sergeant major? Like, you're in a different world. You're in the SF community, so I think,
Well, it's not happening here. So I would think that if it's not happening here, it's not happening anywhere.
Like for me,
you can,
go ahead,
again, it goes hand in hand with, like, because when I was a line first sergeant and then an HHC first sergeant, it goes hand in hand with the politics of it. So do I want to make my senior raider happy? Do I talk to my senior raider who's a lieutenant colonel, right? And it's like, if I go in his office and be like, "Look, sir, you can rate me 4 out of 5. I'm not going to the fucking brigade QTB." I don't care. I like, especially during these next 2 weeks, because we got this, that, and that coming up, and it's like, and then I had a good sergeant major and a good colonel, so I got lucky. And they were like, to the 3, they were like, "Hey, get the first sergeants in your fucking office. All right, that the colonel's probably going to pick the most senior captain as the DO." He's like, "But that 3, that young major in there, he needs the first sergeants to be like, look, if we're going to do a fucking raid, these are your 2 companies, right? If you're going to, these guys are really good at that, and then it makes that's what a first sergeant, needs to be going to his commander and being like, look, this is what the 3's planning. All right. If we don't focus on this, that, and that next 4 weeks, we're going to be on the fucking sideline. Right. And we're going to be the QRF company, because we're sitting here worried about this when the next 6 weeks is what's coming up, bro. And then that's what a good first sergeant does, making sure that the training.
But all that, Nick, should be done like every day. We're talking, like, I'm talking to my company commander. Hey, we're doing our own training meetings or whatever. But if I'm not the first sergeant that's out there popping up at training at least every week or 2, if I'm the guy that's like walking to the platoon and being like, "Hey, platoon sergeant, why the fuck are you in the office right now? Why are you not out with the boys? Where are your boys? What are they doing? Are they in their rooms playing video games, or are they out in Area J training?" You know what I mean? And if they are in Area J, let's take a walk out and see what they're doing. Let's make not to micromanage them, but to check on what they're doing, because they don't have the experience that we do. But I also need to know.
And that's why I brought that up, buddy. That's why I brought that up, because that's what we came up in.
That's what we're used to.
But
brother, that ain't what's going on.
That was the standard.
Anymore.
It's still happening. Like I said, it's still happening in some units. And
that's why I brought it up, because it was curious. Because
the squared away units, those guys are out there training. But again, that's what it is. Like there's just that culture that gets built. It takes a long time to change it once it starts getting more political. Once the culture becomes extremely political, good luck to the next 3 or 4 fucking colonels.
That's why second platoon was always the best, because it had the best culture.
Yeah,
forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, buddy started
You're
that
welcome.
platoon, I think, in 1917.
Thanks, buddy.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
buddy.
Yeah. But anyways,
don't stop till your balls fall off.
We got, that's the dumpster fire. We get a little sidetracked once in a while, but Colonel Rob got it spun up, so it's a good conversation I always have. But with us today, all right, is Chris Linder. Now, we make fun of you in the song, Chris, so I'll have to wait for you to listen to it. Our singer was under the weather for the last couple of weeks, but he's finally back and he's singing. And I kind of put it in the script a little bit. I know that Dave didn't read it, but you know, you were a nurse and you made it to colonel.
Yep.
That's
amazing.
Me, man. Yeah. It's
like,
I
told you, I like air conditioning and women. So
nobody is judging that decision. Like it's just, you know, it's always funny when you go into a hospital and there's like a higher ranking person and you're like, is this guy like really a colonel or is he like a doctor?
It's confusing as hell.
Yeah, it's like,
so he's like really nice and acting
really
cool.
Nice and like. But anyways, I met Chris in El Paso, and we swing the sticks together, play a little golf here and there, and he invited me over to his house one time for a Kentucky Derby party, which I won the winning horse, by the way. But he had all of this bourbon, and I was like, this is fucking phenomenal. And he was like, oh, by the way, I also happen to rate bourbons for a magazine in El Paso. And I was like, no shit. So I figured, all right, those of you that are watching now, because it's recorded, obviously, is we all think that we got to buy, like for a special occasion, I got to get this guy this bottle of Glenlivet 25 here, you know, or I got to get this guy this, that, or that, because that's what the store says. It's on the top shelf, right? So maybe us guys that can only spend about $50 a bottle on a good bottle of bourbon or whiskey can get some help today, because that's what Chris is an expert at is hey, this only costs $30, but it tastes like this. All right. And he's going to help explain that. So welcome to the Trash Talk Hour, Chris. And thank you for your service. So talk a little bit about your service and then how you got into the bourbon education business.
Yeah, I cannot wait to hear this.
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I love the show. Listen to every episode. I love it. It's definitely a value for our soldiers who are struggling and getting out of the military and making that transition and trying to figure out, you know, who they are outside of the military. You know, I'll start out with the fact that just like all of you and most other people who've served in the military for, you know, as long as I did, 28 years, you know, your identity kind of gets wrapped up in what your job is, what your rank is, all those kinds of things in the military. And in reality, the military doesn't give a fuck about you. in the long run, you're going to leave and it will function without you. And that's the first thing that people need to realize. And when it comes to, you know, your mental health, you know, the military will talk a good talk, but the walk isn't there. It really isn't. You know, the stigmas and things like that are still there, despite the facts that they will say that they aren't, or they're trying to get rid of them. You know, I worked at HRC and doing assignments and things like that. And I will tell you, the first time that I heard that we were screening people's mental health records before we were going to assign them to specific units, I thought, you know, what's going on here? You know, we're telling people to go get help if they need it. And then at the same time, we're eliminating them from specific assignments because they've gone and sought help. And it's not right. It really isn't. And, you know, even as a colonel, or, you know, we're all human. We're all human beings. We're all susceptible to the same issues and same stressors and things like that. And when we experience traumatic events, we need to go get help. And not being able to talk about those things, even as a colonel, it doesn't matter. Even in the medical side, you're still not able to really talk to people about the issues that you have to deal with. And, I retired a little over a year ago out here at Fort Bliss, and I wasn't planning to, but I'll tell you that things happened in my life that were traumatic. And I said, you know what? I don't have it anymore. I don't want to play the game. I don't want to play the politics. I don't want to play these nonsense games that the senior leaders in the military play. And like, your angry Colonel, Colonel Rob was talking about, it's all about politics once you get to senior levels in the military. And, relationships matter. Absolutely. It doesn't matter whether they're, the same rank as you, or even, your supervisors, superiors, or subordinates. The relationships really, really matter. And we need to take care of each other. We need to develop those relationships and earn the trust of each other, so that when we have issues, we're able to go to each other and talk about them, and then help each other get through it. And so, that's really the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today, aside from, the bourbon and the amazing brown water that we get from mostly from Kentucky. And I really appreciate what you guys do in allowing people to come on here and talk about some of the challenges that they have, and be real with people, not, this fake crap that we have to, create some persona and image so that we can be a tough guy, or, try to portray ourselves as somebody who's immune to the crap that goes on in this world. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate 10th Mountain Bourbon here for allowing me to try their amazing stuff. Nick, you talked about playing golf, which that's my release every Saturday morning. Whether I suck or whether I'm playing really well, it doesn't matter, because I'm hanging out with other guys and drinking and just kind of having fun, man. That's really what life is about. Don't take it too seriously and just have fun.
Hey, little known fact, by the way, speaking of an environment where it's okay to be yourself and not have a facade, Joe cries every 4 shows. Every 4 show, Joe cries openly. Yeah. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah, the glasses will go on in a little bit.
Yeah. That's what he puts. Well, he's always got sunglasses on, which is weird, because now I feel like I'm wearing sunglasses. He's not. I don't even know who you are anymore, Joe.
I was about to ask you what the fuck's up with you, because you're actually in front of a structure and not traveling for once. So
are you in prison?
I'm stunned that you're not mobile. Are you squatting at someone's house that's on vacation again, or what is that?
This is my new house, guys. I live downtown. Hold on.
Brag, man.
Also,
he was in a tent last weekend in the river. While we were shooting, he was in the river. So
this is actually people. They don't know that I'm here. I actually climbed up this balcony. They have no clue.
I knew it.
I got their codes. They're fucking stupid. People don't protect their codes.
Special operations.
They should protect their passwords
for all the wrong reasons.
Hey, I do have a question though. What's the difference between bourbon and whiskey? Because I have this argument all the time.
Good question. Bourbon was, number one, created in the United States. So it's not something that was created over.
You have to stop now and say America. I think
America.
It's a law.
Yeah. America. Anyway.
America.
So I'll tell you that, Scotch whiskey was created well before bourbon. And Scotch whiskey is mostly you've got malted barley, you've got rye, you've got the single malts and things like that, which those are aged in used barrels. So typically, American oak barrels are sent after they've aged bourbon in them. They'll send them over to Scotland, Ireland, whatever, to age their particular distillate.
Okay, hold on. Not to jump in again. Yeah. But so you're saying Scotch is our sloppy seconds? That's what you're telling me right now. Is that it's seconds?
Absolutely.
It's not as good.
Anything created in Great Britain is sloppy seconds. You already know that.
Yeah, look how they eat
their
their
eggs.
eggs.
Facts. Yeah, they're just facts.
Yeah.
That's the bourbon du jour.
Exactly. So they use our seconds on our barrels. American oak barrels, by the way, which have aged bourbon first. So the first thing is normally way back when bourbon used to be only made in Kentucky. It had to be limestone water. So the law was, there was actual legislation that said it had to be water, corn, and rye and malted barley. That was it. You could only have those 4 grains. And then they later added wheat to that. So 5 different grains. That's it. Period. 5 different ingredients. And that was it. So you could create a bourbon, and it had to be one of those. And so we had in Kentucky, it's unique because of its limestone water. We have a lot of limestone there, a lot of water's flowing through that stuff, and it creates a special flavor in the water. And so they use that with the distillate of the corn. So it had to be at least 51% corn. And then you could use rye or wheat and malted barley. So the malted barley, it doesn't really create any flavor in the bourbon or whiskey. It just, all it does is a function to create the alcohol content. So it changes the sugars into alcohol from the grains. And so a rye whiskey is typically going to be more spicy, and a wheat whiskey is going to be a little sweeter because wheat is sweeter. Rye creates that spice flavor. And so we've got something here today, a 10th Mountain whiskey right here. It's actually produced in Colorado. So, some great water, obviously, in Colorado from the mountains, Rocky Mountains. So this one here is aged 1 year. So normally your bourbons are going to age at least 2 to 2.5 years, at least. So they typically are going to put the age on the bottle. This one's aged 1 year. So you'll see the color is a little bit lighter. I'll show you something like a Buffalo Trace. So the Buffalo Trace is a little darker because it's aged a little longer in the barrel. So it's going to be darker. It's pretty simple.
You come any closer with those and Buddy will headbutt the screen.
Yeah, Buffalo Trace. Look at this. This is a 1.75 liter bottle.
Dude, I'm salivating like I just took a bite out of a ribeye. Am I the only one? Like, seriously.
You are not.
I'm enjoying this.
So the biggest thing about the bourbons is that, these are unique to the United States. We had the Whiskey Rebellion in the 1700s in Pennsylvania. And, that was all about taxes. It's always about taxes, man, right? Taxes on liquor.
Follow the money.
Always what it's about. Follow the money. Exactly.
I was about to say that because it's whiskey and because it's Kentucky, people died over this legislation.
Oh, right? Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Bloodshed.
Absolutely. There were
around.
A lot of people who died over whiskey.
Like deployed machine guns in the mountains.
Prohibition, you got all that stuff. You hear of bottled in bond whiskeys. Yeah. Those are always going to be 100 proof.
Like we will end you over booze. type
Exactly.
attitude. That's how you got to walk in Kentucky.
Not a huge deal, but that's also a currency for
Fuck
preppers.
around and find out. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck
I'll
around,
tell you.
around and find out whiskey.
So I got into bourbon when I was in Kentucky, stationed at Fort Knox. I met my wife there, and I was like, hey, whiskey is synonymous with Kentucky, and I wanted to learn more about it. And I started getting into it back in about 2010, 2011. I started out with like Maker's Mark, Woodford Reserve. You go to the distilleries, you start to see how they make the stuff. You start to see how unique it really is, and what a special spirit it really is for the United States. And so I started getting into it. And then I started figuring out, hey, there's a lot of these damn bourbons that are really hard to come by. And so I would start going to different liquor stores everywhere I would travel. So I was at USAREC doing recruiting.
I'm in USAREC right now. Yeah.
Ah, there you go, baby.
10 years
So,
now.
Hey, guess what? He'll recruit your son. Be careful.
Gross.
Yeah. So I was at USAREC at Fort Knox. I was battalion commander, and I would travel to the 9 states that I had for my recruiting stations. And I would start to go to liquor stores just to kind of see what could I find, what kind of new stuff could I find that I couldn't get in Kentucky. And
Sir, honesty cap fully on. Were you going to liquor stores because you were trying to find liquor from Kentucky, or because you were in USAREC and that's why you had to go to liquor stores? Were you self-medicating?
Actually, it was probably both, because okay, I'll be completely honest. The USAREC CG that we had was all about, like, you couldn't work more than 8 hours. So all my recruiters, if they wanted to work more than 8 hours in a day, they had to get approval from their company commander or first sergeant. And then, of course, always the first sergeants and the commanders of the companies would always come to me as a battalion commander to try and get approval, because they didn't want to take responsibility if one of their soldiers, was stressed out too much because they were working on a weekend or something like that. So you had to have, the schedule way out ahead, 8 weeks ahead, so you could provide predictability for the families and all that kind of stuff. And so that CG was more about, trying to eliminate some of the past issues that we had with recruiters out there working, 80 hours a week and not seeing their families and being really stressed by trying to make mission. And so we didn't do that. And we were more about trying to build the relationships and be able to replicate ourselves to try and do the recruiting for us, right? I mean, you treat somebody well and you get them in the Army, and then you use them to recruit their friends. If you take care of them, they're going to fucking take care of you. That's really the bottom line.
Are you trying to make a statement right now and say that people are more important than anything else, and relationships build a strong military?
Soldier first.
Stop that.
First, people always, right?
Soldier first. If you take care of that, your mission will take care of itself.
Absolutely.
I've always learned that.
Absolutely.
I've been in USAREC for a while now. I'm a first sergeant out in Phoenix. Yeah.
Phoenix, by the way, the Phoenix Battalion is notorious. I'll cite recruiter times, all right, for driving their soldiers into the grave. And we all know recruiter times is like pretty much the gospel. So yeah, Dave's responsible for like 12 deaths in the Phoenix Battalion, according to
I've seen some really horrible leadership in
Phoenix.
I've seen some very good leadership as well. It is a tough market.
Yeah,
but it's always about taking care of the soldiers, point and blank. Like
absolutely, absolutely. You can't.
People, I have a found respect, and these guys are gonna laugh because Nick was infantry, continued infantry. I was infantry with Nick and Joe. We deployed in buddy special forces, but the mission never stops. I used to joke and laugh about recruiting and how, whatever, recruiters are fat and lazy, but the mission never fucking stops. Like, you deploy, you come back, or you go to the field, then you chill out for like 3-4 weeks. You do whatever. Recruiting, you're 0 to hero or hero to 0 from one day to the next. and it doesn't fucking stop. It's that
Are
constant
you
pressure.
are you ready for me to tie this all back into bourbon, guys?
Yeah, tie it back. No, you can talk
Okay.
about how
Hey,
badass
A
you
lot
are, but
like
I can tell you the medical
it's
shit
true.
is the
the
exact same way.
issue.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
issue with all of that is that building a mission upon people and relationships takes time to develop.
of
A
course.
lot like a good bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyhow, we got off on the
Hey,
recruiter
this
stick.
one
Give that
year-
bourbon. Give it a rate it. What do you do? You rate it from 1 to 10. What is 10th mountain?
So normally I rate bourbons from 1 to 5, and I do it based on the nose. So, I sniff it, smell it. Is it high
You gotta stick
quality?
the pinky out when you're doing it.
Everything always has to
you
pass
gotta-
the sniff test.
You got to have the pinky.
Everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got to bring the pinky out, smell it. You start to take in some of those smells that you're going to have. And then when you taste it, you're going to try and pick up the same smells that you're going to get when you taste. So one of the things that I do, I try to write, everything that I smell when I sniff it. So this one, corn.
For those of you that just tuned in or just listening, we're talking about bourbon, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, not a
Throw that out there.
God,
Not
I am
sniffing
way
anything
too
else, right?
immature to have this conversation.
I'm not talking about smelling
So-
pinkies for
The
you.
corn, it smells really sweet. So anything that's got a high level of corn, this one has over 70% corn. So that's going to be sweet. If you go and grill a corn on the cob, it's really sweet.
If
So
you owe me
this one-
$50, you said it was 60% corn.
What's that?
Nick owes me $50 because he said it was 60%
Oh,
corn.
no,
I told
it's
him
over
70,
70%,
and I
man.
tasted it. I knew
Over
it.
70%. This one's over 70% corn. And then, you start to pick up some of those smells, and then I'll take it, take a little sip, kind of chew it, and then try to pick up where it gives me flavors on my tongue. So a lot of times, some of the burn or the sweetness will appear on different parts of your tongue. And when I take this, it's really sweet. It doesn't have a real long finish. So I'll rate the palate, how does it taste? And then the finish. How long is the finish? Does it go really burn down my throat all the way down to my chest? Or is it just something that just kind of sits in my mouth? Is it kind of an oily flavor, oily feel to it? Or do I get, what kind of flavors do I pick up out of it? What kind of complexity is it? Is it complex with like chocolates and tobacco and leather and things like that? Or is it just kind of flat? And so I'll rate them 1 to 5, and then based off of the price. So, this one's like 50 something bucks. And I look at, okay, what else can I get for about the same price? Is it better or is it worse? A lot of good bourbons you can get for under 50 bucks. There's, my overall favorite bourbon under 50 bucks costs typically about 18 bucks. And it's called Early Times Bottled in Bond. And it's a freaking bourbon that you can pretty much find anywhere. It's not Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace is a cheap bourbon. It's typically like 30 bucks for a bottle of Buffalo Trace. But honestly, for the money, Early Times is far better than Buffalo Trace. Far better. There's stuff like Heaven Hill. You can find this stuff pretty much anywhere. Not maybe this bottle, but you can find some of the other bottles. It's a cheap bourbon that you can find. Old Tub is another good bourbon that you can find. It's probably about 20 bucks. Elijah Craig.
I might buy that just to say I'm drinking Old Tub.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And have a serious face.
Yep. Elijah Craig right here. This is 94 proof. You can find this pretty much anywhere. This is a good bourbon.
Do the same people that make Angels and Indy make Elijah Craig? Because that bottle looks super familiar.
No, they actually don't. They're not from the same distillery. Elijah Craig comes from the same distillery as Heaven Hill. These are from the same distillery, Heaven Hill Distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. And so if you ever go to Kentucky, you definitely have to visit the distilleries. My overall favorite distillery there is Willett. It's like an old mom and pop distillery. They'll take you through. They'll show you the big vats that they create the bourbon, the mash with yeast. So you'll see it aging in these big, huge vats before it goes into the distilling process. That's where the alcohol is all created from the yeast, processing those sugars and turning them into alcohol. The Buffalo Trace Distillery is the most famous distillery. They make a lot of shit. Pappy Van Winkle, the Wellers, the Blantons.
That's my favorite, the Blanton.
Hell yeah, Blanton's is really good. Look, I got, if you get the Blantons, you got to collect the tops, right? And spell Blantons out, right? And each one of the horses is in a different position. So you got to do that. But of course you have to drink the actual bottles. Don't buy the freaking bottle toppers. Don't be one of those dickheads who goes and buys the bottle tops.
Posers.
Online. Exactly.
That should be a felony.
You got to drink
Dave has 5 of those barrel things that he bought all the tops for. Just want to throw that out there. He's a notorious liar.
Yeah.
He's a recruiter.
One of the things I like to so
I
talking about
Blanton,
Blanton,
right, Nick? Yeah.
Blanton's has the date that it was bottled on the bottle. It's handwritten. One of the things I like to do is my 3-year-old daughter, she was born March 10th of 2019.
She's aging well, if it's a 3-year-old daughter, she was born in 19.
19. So was this in a leap year or what?
Exactly. Yeah. So I like to, I have a bottle that was bottled the same day she was born. So you like to have one of those, just keep it until they turn 21. In my case, probably 18. My daughter will probably drink that bottle with me when she turns 18, and we will sit down and we will have the entire bottle. So she's going to have to prepare for that over the next.
Love it.
Over the next 6
Right, it's rite of passage.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna learn you a thing or two.
Yeah, absolutely. One of these things. So I collect these things. I have about 300 bottles, and I drink one drink a day. So it's not something that I sit and drink a whole half a bottle or something like that each day. It's something that I just enjoy each night. It's something that I use to remember my time in Kentucky and my time in the Army and my time with all my friends that I had in the Army and still have in the Army, that we've shared these, times together and drank bourbon. And it's something that you can just share with people, collecting these things, tasting them, trying to get different flavors out of them, and then sharing it with other people. That's what collecting bourbon is all about.
I think the interesting thing that you just said is that you have a drink a night, but it's a time to reflect on Kentucky, your past, all that stuff. And I think kind of segueing back to like the beginning of the show, there's a big difference between drinking to reflect and having a drink and just kind of savoring it and savoring the moments that you had in your past, and drinking to forget or drinking to numb the pain or numb whatever. So it's weird that we started the show with, hey, don't drink too much. And then we spent most of the show either talking about drinking, but the fact that, it comes full circle to, having a drink isn't a bad thing. Having a bottle is a bad thing.
Exactly. I'll tell you, I have a special affinity to Kentucky, not just because I met my wife there, but my 18-year-old daughter, 2.5 years ago, she died in a car accident in Kentucky. And so, my PTSD is not from my time in the military. It's not from my deployments or anything like that. It's from seeing my daughter lying there in a casket, and that's the thing that traumatizes me the most. And I can keep drinking and try and forget, but it's not happen. As much as I try to find my erasing my memories through a bottle, it doesn't happen. It actually makes it worse. And so, I try to remember my time in Kentucky. I try to remember my daughter and honor her and honor what she stood for. Being kind to everybody, not seeing people for what they look like, or, what they act like, or the mistakes they made, or the successes they've had, but seeing them as human beings, and everybody deserves that same respect. And so I look at it the exact same way. And when I have some bourbon, I typically am trying to invite other people over, like Nick. Nick comes over, and other people I play golf with, and we share the bourbon. We share the expensive stuff that I've got, the stuff that's hard to get, or we share the stuff that's really easy to get. This Buffalo Trace, or some Elijah Craig or something like that. And I will tell you, this 10th Mountain stuff, I'm going to be sharing with anybody who comes over. So it's an experience, and it's something that I can share with other people. And it helps me with my mental health and dealing with some of the traumas, that I've had in my life. And that's what it's all about, man. It's about sharing yourself, sharing who you are, and sharing your experiences with the people around you, and supporting each other.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Chris, thanks for
Damn,
sharing
brother.
that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that again.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's incredible. It seems
Yeah.
like every time we have a guest on, we leave thinking, Jesus, I'm not complaining for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because I can't imagine. But it's crazy how everybody, when everything comes down to a contact sport, get out there and contact your brothers, get around them, you know, because sometimes that's the only way. Like, no one's gonna understand us like we understand us, and that, that's part of why we created this, is just to get a platform out there for the guys that are geographically separated like us, so we can do this, and it's therapeutic for us.
Yeah.
But
And
awesome story. Thanks for the intel on the fine liquor, because I'm definitely thirsty.
I think a lot of people, even in my profession, being a nurse or something like that, you always have that chip on your shoulder. Like, hey, I'm not infantry, I'm not armor, I'm not one of these, knuckle dragger guys like Nick there, man, going out and kicking in doors and things like that. But, we all have our own demons. If you're medical, you've probably seen a lot of stuff with soldiers who've been blown up and having to try and fix them up, get them back home to their families. And that's a traumatic experience itself. You may not have the injuries, the physical injuries and those experiences where you saw that stuff happen, but you're going to experience it too. You share in that with your brothers and your sisters. And we have to support each other. We have to be there, even as we get out of the military, transitioning, doing that kind of stuff. It's a different world out there, and the civilians don't understand what we've been through.
Yeah, and that's one of the most difficult times. We've talked about this multiple times during the show, is a transitioning piece. And I'm going to be transitioning in 2 years, retiring. Nick as well. Joe went through a rough patch. He's talked about it on the show, I think. And that's why I am grateful to have this whole team and to be part of this community, because like Nick always says, Saturdays, this is our therapy. I think the best way to deal with any type of demon is just to get with your brothers and talk about it, and that's what VTT is all about. So I'm happy to be part of this, because that transition piece. You hear it too often. They get out and it's a brand new world. They're not used to the civilian sector. They can't deal with civilians. Now the PTSD is kicking in. They're not surrounded by their brothers and sisters anymore.
So, you go from being a first sergeant or a colonel to most basic training mode. It's a hard thing to do. It is. It's a hard thing to do, to maybe take shit every once in a while. Someone doesn't care about your service. And every once in a while, you got to swallow it in the civilian world.
People aren't standing up when you walk in the room. That doesn't happen. People
get a parade rest for me.
And if you set everybody's ass straight, you get the crazy veteran tag. So it's like you got to dance on that fault line somewhere.
You're suddenly not that important anymore, plain and simple.
Well, how many times are we told throughout our career that when we get out, we're going to be hobos if we get out before it's past 20 years? So, you can get out, but you'll be a fucking bum on the side of the road. Like, really? Will I? Maybe.
Yeah, we actually, those of you that are watching this long into the show, we just witnessed another thing happen where Buddy actually went inside of the house, and then he didn't mute the mic, and that was his mistake, because you realized immediately that there was a female there that did not like him in the house. Right, Buddy is not allowed in the house except on Sunday afternoons. That is the only time he's allowed in there. And then she sent a dog after him. So I don't know if you guys all picked up on that. Be careful.
The real thing.
This video stops again. It'll start in the car.
Unlike me, my phone is affected by the heat. I was sitting on my back deck, and it got my phone got so hot that it had like a temperature warning, and I was like, oh, that's pretty. I've literally been like, I may have had more than one drink of bourbon. I'm sorry.
That's good, buddy. That's good.
But the heat did not bother me. It did bother me.
As long as it was 10th Mountain bourbon, right?
Yeah.
It was cordial. Not a huge deal. Cordial by 10th Mountain. It's delicious. It tastes like peach.
Yeah, they make it for the
vanilla
girls.
bourbon.
Yeah.
And it is delightful all the time.
Yeah, so Buddy's trying to understand women's roles in combat more by drinking cordial. And
I was going to say, I kept that bottle corked until my wife gave birth to my son in February.
The mental health aspect has to keep getting talked about. And, doesn't matter if we keep saying the same thing over and over again. Because, we used to get messages on Veteran Trash Talk that said, hey, can you help this guy? Can you help this guy? Can you help this guy? And it's like, that's not really what we do. It's all right. It's like, hey, get him to the group. Right, and have him put his problem out there, right? And then out of the 40,000 people, somebody's going to be like, yeah, I know what you're dealing with. And so that's the community that we bring up. And I love how you brought up, starting the conversation with a glass of bourbon. So we come up with our shirts. We got the Quit Being a Triggered Pansy, the Throat Punch Monday, and all this stuff. We don't really care if we sell them. A little bit maybe, but because it costs money. But those shirts are supposed to get conversation started.
Yeah.
And it's like, you'll see it all the time when you wear that shit in public. Somebody will be like, where'd you get that shirt? And now all of a sudden you find out that they were in 2nd Marine Division, and now you're having a conversation with somebody, about the military, and you might have made that guy's whole year, right? Because he was able to talk about some stuff, express it. You never know. And that's
and hopefully they're not pretending to be a paratrooper and saying "oorah."
Oorah, yes, Joe. Joe
doesn't like that.
Joe.
I swear to God, he hit me with a mental haymaker. I couldn't believe what had come out of. It was like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm just like, dude, no.
Airborne.
In between those times, it felt like an hour. I was like, what the did he just say?
And we have a perfect example last week, which of how mental health is not taken seriously by the majority of Americans. It's looked at as a weakness.
Yep.
And we just saw that with one of the greatest athletes in American history.
Yep.
Where let's just say she's full of shit. All right. Let's say she's lying. Let's just, for the sake of the argument. All right. Are you going to take that chance? Right. But I'm going to guarantee you that somebody who has that much winning in her background, that much training in her background, we're talking about Simone Biles, of course, she had a problem mentally. And I saw so many right-wingers on my Facebook threads.
Fucking ridiculous.
Fucking nuts about calling her a quitter and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting here like, you know what? I'm like, and a lot of them are military, and I'm like, I'm so glad you got the fuck out before you had a chance to have that opinion about somebody who was looking for help, because you just showed your true fucking colors. One,
100%.
You'll never be as good as she is at anything in your life. And we always talk about the book of
Nick,
Earl, like,
not to
average.
real bother you, but my daughter made a pretty profound statement about the same things. Like, how are you going to talk about Simone Biles when you can't even do a cartwheel? Like, you can't do a cartwheel.
She's spot on, though. She's spot on. It's true.
Yeah, and it's like, and
don't
again,
fucking compete.
These people are so average in their head that they've already had that fixed mindset that they have to hate that right there. Like, oh, she quit. All right, guess what, guys? We've all seen combat. All right, we've seen some pretty thick combat. And I've seen guys, I've seen good leaders say, hey, you're sitting tomorrow out.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, Sarge, no, man, I'm going out. No, you're sitting out. Right? And it's like, because he might be a liability to the rest of the force, not because he's a shitbag, because he's having a bad fucking day. Right? Even if it happens at home. Like, we find out this guy's, wife cheated on him.
Yep.
Right? Hey, you're not going on a mission this week. Right? Don't care. All right? Reflect. Think about some stuff. Right? Or maybe the best thing for him is to get him out there, but that's the leader's job. Right? And it's like, Simone Biles was saying, I need a break.
Yeah.
I'm a liability to myself, and I'm also a liability to my team right now. Right? So again, if you haven't built your team to win without somebody for a day, all right, then you failed.
And if you're a leader and you don't know your people,
I was gonna say that. Yeah,
you are failing. When I was
you need to be able to notice those triggers and those warning signs.
In 2007, so during the surge, the 15-month deployment, and I had a bunch of medics that were 18, 19, 20 years old, and we were there to take care of detainees. And medics, they don't join the Army. People don't join the Army to take care of people that we captured who were trying to kill our soldiers, right? So mentally, you have to grasp that and you have to understand it. And I knew after Abu Ghraib, the shit that happened there, that we were the next rotation after that. And my soldiers needed to be able to take care of these people and their medical needs, regardless of what the hell they thought about them. And my responsibility at the time, I was a major, and I spent all my time with my soldiers, learning what was going on in their lives, talking to them. Hey, what's going on at home? How's your wife? How's your kids? All this kind of crap, because I knew that if they weren't right in the head, they were going to go out there and take their shit out on the detainees. And then I was going to have an international incident, and that was going to cost lives of our soldiers, you guys like you guys out there, kicking in doors, and people being pissed off because we were abusing the people that we had detained. And I'm proud to say that over 15 months, not one of my soldiers did anything that was going to jeopardize their integrity and jeopardize the mission that we had in Iraq. And
wouldn't it have been sick if you'd have had an NCO that could have paid attention to all that for you?
I will tell you. So my NCO, I had to relieve, because my NCO was only concerned about doing Soldier of the Month boards, and
I feel like you're making my point from the beginning of the show. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've said a million times that bad captains are made by shitty E7s because they were
100%.
They were shitty platoon sergeants when they were
had
lieutenants.
a shitty platoon sergeant. Yep.
And then shitty lieutenants were made, or shitty captains were made by shitty E7s that made it so they couldn't trust their NCOs. Then they became captains, then became majors, and they never were able to regain that trust. And instead of having an E8 or an E7 take that trust back, and by proving that they could work it, they allowed officers to do their job for them instead of like being like, you know, yeah, you had a shitty experience, but that's not how the rest of us are.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, as an NCO, you know, I was an NCO. I was an E5 before I became an officer. And so I understood, you know, what life was like as an enlisted service member. You know, it's not something that it's very different than it is as an officer. Very, very different. And, you know, I became an officer because I hated doing KP. I really did. That's the God's honest truth. I hated doing KP. I was a medic in a engineer battalion, and I fucking hated doing KP and CQ and being in the motor pool and all that shit. I hated it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to become a damn officer, and I'm not going to do that shit anymore. And Smart. It was basically because my leaders didn't take good care of me. And, you know, they didn't make my job feel important. And so that's really the job of a leader, is to help soldiers understand their part in the bigger mission. How do you affect the overall mission? And a fucking private can completely undermine a strategic level mission. I mean, a private, that's the way things are nowadays. And they don't understand, and they're, you know, 18, 19 years old. They're not expected to understand. Somebody who's mature and experienced is supposed to be guiding them and leading them to do the right thing and to understand how they fit in the bigger picture. And really,
don't they deserve to be heard?
Hell yeah. Hell yes.
I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, they also deserve to be told to shut the
because
fuck
everybody
up
feels like they
what
got
they're
a fucking
supposed
voice
to
now.
do.
And when you come in as a private, no, the fuck you don't have a voice. Just shut up. And do what you're told. Seriously, like fuck your feelings for 9 months.
You know what? You know who I
blame?
blame?
At the job you're getting paid to do
crew. You know who
before
I
you have
blame
a
for all of it?
feeling or a complaint.
Nick's down there with all the sergeant majors right now. He can affect change. He won't do it though. Look at him. Surrounded by his shit.
I have been moved a few offices here and there, so I've done my best. Okay.
But you know, nowadays the sergeants major, they're becoming a lot more like the officers.
Yeah, they're making them another
really
major.
are.
Well, we designed it that way though, right? Because it's a whole lot harder to lead a group of people that has dissension within the ranks for a purpose, right? Like, so I was an SF team sergeant. We had a chief warrant officer, we had a captain, and then we had me. And our teams worked perfectly. The reason they worked perfectly, though, is because the officer was we argued all the time. Like, literally told the team to get the fuck out of the office, and we had arguments. But the reason what we had arguments about, the officer was always arguing for the mission.
Yeah.
I was always arguing for the boys, and Chief was always arguing for the intelligence. Like, and at the end of the day, I had a captain one time that said something. It wasn't super profound, but it was profound enough that professionals speak plainly so that we all understand what the fuck we're talking about. That doesn't mean that we don't cuss. Doesn't mean that it means that we speak in a language that we can all understand, that so we can all be on the same sheet of music. We don't get wrapped around the asshole on proper speak, proper English, grammar, the rest of it.
Yeah.
I think that we have gotten so far away from that in the regular Army that it's more about the facade of professionalism than it is the professional. Because, you know, I had another buddy that was in Fallujah. He was in Iraq with us back in 2007. Not a huge deal. He wasn't down in Samara. He would have won that real quick. But that being said, you know, his big thing was they want us to be professionals, but we're professional infantrymen. Professional infantrymen should be dirty, grungy, shitty-looking dudes that cuss all the time, drink and smoke, because we're getting paid to murder people for the government.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
we're not working in a Fortune 500
It's the Chandler area where we had to take pictures of our tattoos below our elbows, and then we had to shave while we were on leave. You know, and it was like, wait a minute. I want guys that drive crotch rockets. I want guys that get tattoos on Saturday night, right? I'm going to try to coach them into getting the right tattoo in the right location, but it's like, I need a guy willing to kick a fucking door down, not knowing what's behind it. All right.
If I'm at USAREC,
yeah.
If I'm at USAREC, I'm at the X Games trying to recruit there. I'm not at Bible at Bible practice on Sunday trying to recruit there. I'm looking for dirty bastards, not nerds who are just like, oh, my mom told me to do this, so I can't. I want you to break the rules because you're fighting human nature to kill another human. That's what I want.
Yep. But we want it both ways. We want professionals who are going to be murderers, and you can't have it both ways. That's just the way life is, and it's the way that the profession is. And I look at it even from the medical side. We talked about readiness. We want to make sure that we have medical readiness. We have our soldiers ready to go deploy and do their job downrange. But then we want them to be productive and somehow match up to civilian hospitals and how many patients they see and how productive they are. And I'm like, you can't have it both ways. You can't. You want soldiers to do what soldiers do, period. Stop trying to make them into something else, because otherwise you're going to end up not getting what you're paying for. You're not going to be able to accomplish the mission that the American government is paying them to do, period. So accept the good with the bad, period. That's what you have to do. You have to accept, you know what? They're going to cuss. They're going to, catcall at women. That's what they're going to fucking do, because that's who they are. That's what you want out there on the line doing their business.
Yeah, I mean,
and you may be able to skew that. You may be able to skew that behavior left and right a little bit. You know what I mean? But you're not going to be able to change that. And I would argue that that's the problem with the mental health of most of America, is that we're fighting our nature. If you're fighting your nature, you're going to have issues. Conflict. If you embrace your nature and then know that there's a time and a place for everything. You know what I mean? Like there's a time and a place where that behaviors are allowed. There's a time and a place. Like you can't just run up into like a church and start cussing. Everyone should know that. It's like, but you can't just tell yourself, well, I'm never going to use words. Like it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey, so this is a phenomenal conversation, and I think pretty sure we could probably go for like.
I know we got away from the bourbon.
Yeah.
I got it.
What do you rate the 10th Mountain 1 through 5?
So 10th Mountain 1 through 5, I'd probably give it about a 3.9.
Nice. And so again, you said that the early times is a good bottle of bourbon for the price.
Absolutely.
And then I'll definitely look that up as well.
What would you rate the early times, just out of curiosity?
Early times, I'd probably rate at about a 4.4.
Holy shnikes!
Considering the price, the availability, and how the palate and the finish and the nose and all that stuff. That one is the early times bottled in bond. So there's a different early times that really sucks. You want the bottled in bond, which is, 100 proof. So you'll see it. It's a blue label, and it's about 18 to 20 bucks, particular, pretty much per bottle, depending on where you go.
Well, hey, Chris, thanks for coming on the show. And awesome. Thanks for sharing your stories. And how, what you do to cope and what you do to, create conversation with your buddies. I'm sure lots of us can grow from that as well. Buddy, thanks for being here and, actually being inside for a little bit. That was strange. That was, like I said, be careful. It's Saturday.
Hey, shit happens. It's weird. It's a weird time, everybody. August sucks.
Yeah. And Nick. Just because you suck at golf doesn't mean you can't come out and play.
Yeah, Saturdays are tough because, like I said, the daughter's playing football. Yeah, the daughter's playing football.
If they only golf 12 holes, Nick would be lights out. It's 15, 16, 17.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, you know what I'll tell you about the daughter playing football thing? If dudes acted like dudes, she wouldn't have a chance. But the fact is, she's probably more baller than 3/4 of those kids that are out there.
That's about 80% true. That is a fact that she is raised athletically and to go win things. So that's a big difference. However, I'm waiting until high school when the boys start developing faster. But she's a real athletic girl, so she'll be able to.
I bet she's not the first one to cry. That's what Buddy's trying to say.
Exactly.
I bet she isn't.
And I'll leave us with this. She came up to my room and said, "Hey, I want to play football." I was like, "Why?" And she goes, "Because no other girls do it." And I was like, "Good enough for me," And so can't be a trendsetter by following everybody else in the pack.
Stifle your child from
my dad told me when I said I want football, he said, "If you can take a hit from me, you can play football
with a hammer." So if you can dodge a hammer, you can dodge a ball. But anyway, dodge a wrench, whatever it says there. But hey, guys, big shout out to our sponsors again: Zach Farkas and the Veterans Linder Mortgage Source, and then 10th Mountain Whiskey. All right, you just got a good rating, 3.5, 6 something, 3.9, I think he said. And then Barrage Coffee. So go to barragecoffee.com, get some coffee from Kyle Early with Battle on the Home Front. We'll see you guys next Saturday.
Cheers, brothers.
Party on.
Where do we turn to veteran trash talk? Where do we turn to veteran trash talk? Where do we turn to veteran trash talk? Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. One day I'm okay, next day darkness. One day I'm okay, next day darkness. One day I'm okay, next day darkness. Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. Past is the past, so be forgiven. The past is the past, so be forgiven. The past is the past, so be forgiven. Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. Let's fight, don't quit, call that in order. Let's fight, don't quit, call that in order. Let's fight, don't quit, call that in order. Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. Raise a glass for those we're missing. Raise a glass for those we're missing. Raise a glass for those we're missing. Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. That's what we do in veteran trash talk. That's what we do in veteran trash talk. That's what we do in veteran trash talk. Bravely every morning.